I'm standing next to a 2023 BMW M3 Competition xDrive, and it is basically one of the most high-performing mid-size sedans on the planet. Now, I own a 3 Series, but it isn't one of these. And today, I'm going to be bringing you a review of it. I'm Aiden, and you're watching God Next. Let's talk about the powertrain in the BMW M3 for 1 second. This is powered by a twin-turbocharged inline-six, the S58 engine. This one makes 503 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. That's the same if you were to get the rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive version of the Competition. But if you don't get a Competition model and just a regular M3 with a manual transmission, you're only going to get 473 horsepower. So for a couple grand more, you can get 30 extra horsepower out of this engine. It's mated to a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. It's definitely tuned differently than the other BMWs out there. It's very quick and snappy. All right, on the exterior of the BMW M3, starting up front, the biggest complaint everybody has with this car is going to be the grille. It's kind of comparable to a horse's nostrils, I guess, when you want to compare it to the size compared to the entire size of the body, but it's actually grown on me over the last couple of years this car has been out. Now, what a lot of people will do to remedy this problem that they have with the grille is they'll buy something that looks like a CSL grill and install it here, which kind of puts more of a barrier in between this top and bottom portion. As you can see, if you get the driver assistance package, you also have this massive piece of plastic down here. That's your radar sensor for your adaptive cruise control and some other cool features on the inside of this car when it comes to technology. Another thing this one has, this is a 2023, so you do get the 50-year heritage badge on the front, along with the back and on the center caps for the wheels. Now, another option this one has is going to be these BMW laser headlights. This is about a $1,000 option. But yeah, the front of it, like I said, it's grown on me. On the hood, you also have these indents that the other 3 Series don't have. These indents lead down to the grille and create more of an aggressive presence. Moving on to the side, before I move on to any of the features on the side, I do want to talk about the color of this car. This is Sao Paulo yellow, and it's one of the many color options you can get on the M3, but I absolutely love this color. It makes the car look so unique compared to the other colors of the M3s out there. Now, when it comes to the rims and the wheels, it has a staggered setup, 275s up front and 285s in the rear. And when it comes to the brakes, you have 15.7-inch drilled rotors up front and 15-inch drilled rotors in the back with these red M brakes right here. Now, another thing I want to talk about on this car is going to be the wingtip mirrors right here. These were exclusively on M cars only not that long ago, even before the LCI generation. Only the M cars got the wingtip mirrors, but after the LCI, there was a change in this, and BMW kind of diluted the feature by adding it to the M3 40i, which a lot of customers and lovers of these cars have complained about because they say it tarnishes the M branding on this car. Now, I kind of agree. Yes, they look cool, but in history of all M cars, this has really only been a feature on the M vehicles, not so much the M sport cars. Now, on the back of the M3, like I said, you have that heritage badge right here for the 50-year anniversary. And back here, the most aggressive thing that I love about this car is going to be the rear diffuser with those quad exhaust pipes that lead back to that S58. In general, the back of this car looks so much more aggressive than any of the other 3 Series out there. You have the wider haunches to accommodate for these larger wheels back here. Typically on the 3 Series, you get about 225s on the back, I believe, but to accommodate for those larger wheels, you have so much wider of a rear end, and it looks so good, even from the back. Now, on the interior of the M3, this is an amazing place to be. In fact, it's one of the most comfortable high-end sports cars I've ever been in. I love the marina blue leather with the yellow contrast upholstery and the stitching. It looks great. The sad thing about this one, it doesn't have the $950 carbon fiber option. It just uses this regular hexagonal pattern. That doesn't mean the interior of this car is any worse, but the carbon fiber would have been a nice touch. Right here, you'll see these 2 red switches. This is the M1 and the M2 button. These are configurable M modes, like drive modes, that you would click anytime on the fly you want to change the sportiness of the vehicle and the tuning of individual components of the car, including the engine, the steering, the suspension, and even the brakes. Now, for the mid-life cycle refresh on this car, instead of having the 2 split screens where one is embedded in the dash and the other one stands up kind of like an iPad, you have this massive set of 2 screens right here, all new. This is iDrive 8. It's a great infotainment system. It's a little easier to get around than the last one, but it's very high quality. The display changes when you change the drive modes. I'll show you this. If I hit the M mode button in the center control stack right here and change it to sport, it changes the way the digital gauge cluster looks. And if I change it to track mode, it activates the track one right there, shows different information based on what drive mode you're in. Now let's talk about the configurable drive modes for a second. If you hit the setup button in the center control stack right here, will take you over to this little setup menu where you can set on the fly tuning for the engine, the suspension, steering, brakes, and for the traction control, and you can even set it for the drivetrain. This is by default all-wheel drive if you get the xDrive version of this car, except you can decouple the front wheels from the drivetrain and turn it into a two-wheel drive vehicle for improved drift performance and things like that. One thing I find interesting, if you know about the F generation of the M vehicles, they had a DSG transmission. They didn't use the ZF 8-speed that all the other BMWs used. This has the same layout for the shifter as the DSGs do, except this one is the ZF 8-speed, which is a torque converter. You move it to the side for driver sport, move it to the left for neutral, and you go up from neutral to get into reverse. It's just like the DSGs had, but this one's a torque converter. It's interesting that BMW kept that layout for the shifter. All right, so driving the BMW M3. What can I say? It really is an exceptional car. Oh my God. I've not ever driven an M car, ever. And I'm in love with the BMW brand and everything they stand for and the performance you get with the M cars, but this is just another level of crazy that I didn't think the BMWs had in them. I heard this car was fast. I believe them now because this car is stupid with how fast it is. And with my 3 Series with the ZF, which is nothing to compare to this car, the 3 Series, its transmission is a little sluggish, especially after driving this. I think it's just the tuning of the way they do it, but this transmission is, this tuning of this is so much better. And the brakes are just like no other brakes I felt on any of the other BMWs. I want to drive an M5 Competition. I'll probably never drive in a CS. Like I said, this is the first M car I've driven, but this thing is absolutely insane. Let's put it in M1 mode, which tightens up the steering for me. The steering is on point, and the body roll is so mitigated by its suspension that you just feel like you could take any corner with this car. And even though the steering gets tighter, it's not like it gets so tight that there's this forced feedback in it that you can't control. I mean, it's just so controllable. And it's so open to being driven by beginners. Like, I don't feel like the car is too powerful or too needy for me. I think anyone could get in this car and drive it fast on curvy roads or anything like that, like I'm doing right now. It's such a driver's car, but at the same time, you can just drive it like it's a normal daily driver. When you have it in comfort mode, it's super forgiving for anything you do. Every bump is forgiven. It's not 7 Series soft, because the suspension is stiffer, but it just... It's forgiving in comfort mode, and it's so fun and so engaging in sport mode. If you're deciding on whether you should buy an M340i because it's just the cheaper option, you want to save money, and you don't think the M3 is worth it, I would say the M3 is worth it, even though you're going to be spending so much money for it. It starts a little over $70,000, but it just, I can't even explain the feeling it gives you compared to something like an M340i. It's just so much better. Seriously. I was getting in this thinking the brakes were going to be just needy and tactile, and you're going to tap it and it would throw you into the steering wheel, but it's not. Yeah, they're more firm than normal brakes would be, but you don't have to like be scared to use them. You can get into them without being afraid that you're gonna get thrown in the steering wheel or that you're not gonna understand the braking timing on these things. But it really is just, you know, hop in and the car welcomes you into driving it hard. The spirit of this car, I think, lives in all the BMWs. M cars are just a hoot to drive. And that was the BMW M3. It is seriously one of my favorite cars on the market today, with how much power it makes, how quick it is, that 2.8 second 0 to 60 at top speed of 185 miles an hour. It is seriously one of the best cars on the market, and I love it. And if I had $95,000, which is what this one is selling for, I would definitely buy it because it's worth every dollar for the performance and luxury you get. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.